Let's talk about what's been going on in South Africa.
Business owners are counting the cost after the mass looting and damage to property.
We've seen some of the worst violence in South Africa since apartheid in the 1990s.
More than 200 people were killed, some shot, some trampled in stampedes. Across 2 provinces, looters ransacked shopping malls, people burnt down factories, the transport and supply system was paralyzed. Small businesses were destroyed.
Do you think I'm going to sleep tonight when I see this? Why don't I just sleep forever?
President Cyril Ramaphosa sent in soldiers and said the violence was planned.
He seemed to suggest that there are individuals in the country who are trying to topple his government.
It's shifting from what seems like spontaneous looting to people beginning to say who's behind this and how do we track them down.
So what triggered the violent free-for-all? Where does former President Jacob Zuma fit in? And what does all this mean for South Africa? South Africa is dealing with a lot of problems. The legacy of apartheid, huge economic inequality, crushing unemployment, and the most recorded cases of COVID-19 in Africa. But none of that, except for the pandemic, is new. So why did things kick off back in early July? Well, you can't answer that question without talking about the former president, Jacob Zuma. He was in office from 2009 to 2018, a time marked by corruption and cronyism at the highest levels of government. Zuma was forced to resign in 2018 because of all the allegations against him. He's been fighting them ever since and denies he did anything wrong. Which brings us to the Zondo Commission. It's a public inquiry into what's called state capture during Zuma's presidency, meaning corruption involving the government and the private sector.
I will investigate anybody and everybody, no matter who he or she is.
Hundreds of witnesses have provided lots of details about what allegedly went on. President Ramaphosa says the cost of corruption during Zuma's time in office was more than $30 billion.
I think that no South African would have even comprehended the extent to which corruption became so systemic.
So that's some of the backstory. Here's how things escalated. In February this year, Zuma refused to appear before the Zondo Commission, even though he testified before. And then in June, the Constitutional Court sentenced Zuma to 15 months in prison for contempt of court. He was given a deadline to turn himself in, and at the very last minute, he showed up at a police station.
This is a man for whom history is catching up with him. He's employed what South Africans refer to as Stalingrad tactics, which is this kind of continued challenge of the allegations through the court system and delaying.
Slowly but surely, the forces of law and order closed around the former president, who refused to go to court, and finally on the contempt of court charge, with about 5 minutes to go, he surrendered to the police and he's now in prison.
While all that was going on, hundreds of Zuma supporters, some carrying weapons, rallied in KwaZulu-Natal, his home province.
We are here to say Ramaphosa must step down. We'll make the country ungovernable.
And for a while there, things did get out of hand. Over the next week, there were more than 300 reported incidents, including looting and arson across the provinces of KwaZulu-Natal and Gauteng, where the cities of Johannesburg, Pretoria, and Durban are. In some places, police failed to control the looting. People took security into their own hands, from taxi drivers to armed vigilantes. President Ramaphosa was criticized for being too slow to act. Eventually, after almost a week, he sent in 25,000 soldiers, the biggest military deployment since the end of apartheid. And that helped to calm things down. And now, South Africans have been left to clean up the mess.
It's actually saddening that we break our own stores and steal our people's jobs, you understand? because the very same looting will cost us food and everything essential to us.
It's families to support. Everything is gone. It's going to take months and months for us to get back up again.
Insure is now facing multi-million-dollar claims for repairs. One banking group says the economy will contract by 3%.
People are in a process of quite a serious kind of self-introspection, as into, how have things gotten so bad.
So how did it get so bad? Well, some of it appeared to be plain opportunism.
If a person who's driving a car can come here with his car, surely not everyone who is looting here is unemployed or is struggling to survive.
But a lot of people in South Africa are struggling to survive.
Look at me. My stomach is running. I couldn't even wash myself. I just dry clean myself. Look at me. And look at the house. It's dirty.
The World Bank says it's the most unequal country in the world. Unemployment among young people stands at 75%. And the pandemic has made everything worse.
There is without question a huge number of people who live hand to mouth, who've also been locked down under COVID, who've lost even more of their livelihoods. And so I think you can put all of that together and you get a context.
That context, though, doesn't necessarily explain everything that's happened. And President Ramaphosa suggested there was actually something else going on.
The events of the past week were nothing less than a deliberate, a coordinated, and a well-planned attack on our democracy.
So that takes it to a whole other level. The implication is that Zuma or people close to him had something to do with the violence. But right now that hasn't been proven. And as of July 19th, only one suspected ringleader had been arrested. Now remember, Ramaphosa and Zuma are from the same political party, the ANC, which has run South Africa for almost 30 years, since the end of apartheid. But the two men now represent rival factions within the same party.
There has been a concerted effort by the current president to turn things around. And I think that part of the reason why there is a lot of instability inside the governing party is because the group that is close to the president is in fact gaining more power. And that this, in part, what we're seeing now, is in part a serious backlash against that.
The institutions of investigation and prosecution have all been reinvigorated under Cyril Ramaphosa. And I think the people who have been stealing these what we call the 9 wasted years under Zuma, are suddenly aware of the proximity of prison. And no one really wants to go to jail. So if you have to burn down a country, and you keep your wealth and you keep your freedom, then so be it.
That's one theory. And apart from anything else, it shows just how complicated this whole situation is. What happened has revealed a lot about South Africa's problems and how much work it will take to solve them. But it's also a moment for reflection.
This whole situation highlights the absolute urgency to resolve South Africa's economic and social contradictions. When you have conditions of extreme social and economic inequality, and when there is a disconnect between the state and society, then one is vulnerable to this.
I think it's a critical moment. If the rule of law wins, even at this appalling human cost, the power of that signal to every South African, even this former state president is now in prison, and the next one can also be in prison, and the next one, that is invaluable.
For more on the situation in South Africa, head over to aljazeera.com. You can also find more Start Here episodes on Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook. Also make sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel so you don't miss our next episode.